Well, it's hard not to see these prisoners as some kind of pawns in a three-dimensional chess game going on between these two rivals, Iran and the U.S. What we learned today was that from the Iranian embassy telling our CNN bureau in Baghdad that two Iranian nationals who've been in U.S. military custody for years, one of them as long as 7 years in Iraq, were released to Iraqi authorities, handed over to the Iranian embassy, and very quickly flown out of the country today. The timing seems rather strange, especially since just this week Iran made a very big deal of granting visas to the mothers of 3 Americans who were arrested by Iranian security forces some 10 months ago while hiking along the border between Iraq and Iran, granting visas to these 3 mothers to go visit their sons and daughter in Tehran just this week.
So you think, it sounds to some people like there's something afoot. The Americans were giving these prisoners back, and hopefully that will result in these 3 Americans detained in Iraq, maybe some development on that front.
Well, the Iranian embassy denies that there's any link. American officials we've tried to talk to have referred us to the Iraqis, and in the past, when we've seen similar patterns of something that looks like a prisoner exchange between the two countries, both sides have denied that. However, earlier this month, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, when asked in an interview with the Boston Globe about the possible release of these 3 Americans held in Tehran, he suggested a possible prisoner swap. Just last week, Ali, we saw something that looked very suspiciously like a prisoner swap, though both the French and the Iranian governments denied that. What we saw was a 24-year-old French national, Clotilde Reiss. She was arrested last summer in Iran, accused of being a spy for the French and held in prison. She was released, and just days later, the French released an Iranian who's been in a French prison for 19 years. He was convicted of the brutal murder of a former Iranian prime minister in France, a dissident Iranian leader, and then abruptly released. Also, the French refused to extradite another Iranian wanted for dealing in arms-related supplies that the U.S. had requested. The French and the Iranians deny that was a prisoner swap, but you really have to wonder when you see the timing of that case. We don't know what's going to happen right now between these people who've been released from Iraq and the future fate of these 3 Americans. We do know that their mothers have gone to Tehran airport after several days on the ground in Tehran. They were allowed to visit with their sons and daughter for 2 days consecutively, but they went home evidently empty-handed.